Project Pat, definitely one of those guys that people call your favorite rapper's favorite rapper. His unique style and flow, along with his highly praised body of work, not only solidifies him as a legend from where he's from, which is Memphis, but also a legend in the rap game. I mean, think of all the legends you have in Memphis alone. The 8-Ball and MJGs, the members of 3-6 Mafia, Play It Fly, DJ Zerk, Tommy Wright III, DJ Spanish Fly, DJ Squeaky, Kingpin Skinny Pimp, etc. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I could be here all day naming off Memphis legends, and that's just the old school. But so far, Project Pat being in that conversation alone just says a lot. I don't want to hold y'all up too much, but before I get more into the video, I would first like to thank you guys for coming to see this, because you guys can be doing a million other things right now. But instead, you're here with me, and I appreciate that. If you guys like the content, you guys should like, comment, and subscribe to help the channel grow. Also, follow my Instagram too. That would be greatly appreciated. Comment down below your favorite Project Pat album, song, verse, etc. Also, let me know where you are tuning in from. Represent where you're from. Shout out to all that North Memphis, South Memphis, Westwood, Orange, Mile. But let's get into some Project Pat, man. This video is long overdue. Project Pat was born Patrick Earl Houston in Memphis, Tennessee in February of 1973. As many already probably know that he is the brother of Juicy J, who is one of the co-founders of 3-6 Mafia, who I did a video on a while back. Definitely one of the best videos I've ever done, and definitely one of my most liked videos. But Project Pat is the older brother of Juicy J, and they would grow up in North Memphis, specifically in the Cypress Garden area. When asked about how it was growing up in Memphis, this is what Pat had to say. Like any other inner urban city, just like Baltimore, just like St. Louis or DC or Detroit is drug infested. The project I grew up in is abandoned. I just stayed focused and got a blessing. It was the ghetto, so you know how that goes. Not to put the same old sob story out there, because everybody always do. In the ghetto, you got schools, you got everything. You got all the opportunities to make it out. There's negativity too though, and when I say negativity, I mean there's so many people that you see that's older than you that didn't make it, and it's like, oh man, I'm probably going to end up being that guy. I had a lot of that too, but you know my father, he's a minister. I did have a daddy in my house, a real father. Memphis back then and even now is a dangerous place, and it's unfortunate that I'm making this video so close to the death of young Dolph, rest in peace. But back then, according to Project Pat, Memphis was really bad. And you gotta think that Project Pat grew up in the 80s, and a good amount of people who watch this channel are already from that era and already know how bad the 80s was, especially since it was the crack era. But to give an example, Project Pat has shared a story where him and Juicy J were driving around, and mind you, this is Juicy J before he became Juicy J. And this is when he was a local DJ, and him and Pat got pulled over by the cops, and they found a gun on him. They asked him why he had his gun, had no permit, but basically he bought it off the street, and Juicy explained that it was dangerous outside, and the cop ultimately gave him back his gun. It was that bad. Pat said that it was so bad that he normally kept 2 guns on him. But like many other people around Pat, he fell victim to the streets. He would end up doing things like selling drugs, doing robberies, etc. And Pat said that he was like 15, 16 when he started selling drugs and stuff. He actually never got arrested for drugs, but however, this life would soon catch up to him. Around 1993, 1994, when Pat was 20 or 21, he got locked up for robbery, but got out on bond for a year. Now, something else that happened in 1994 is that Project Pat would drop his first mixtape, I'm pretty sure, which is called Solo Tape. Here's a snippet of what early Project Pat sounded like.
And I could, and I should ride in the Fleetwood roam with the drone to your neck. If you're caught slipping, bullet to the dome, and you're dead if you start tripping. These women of the 9 track like to go for it.
Here's how Pat got involved with music though, because that was never actually his initial plan. It was actually through Juicy J, because doing music and things of that nature had always been Juicy's dream ever since he was a little kid. Pat simply got into music because he saw the money in it. While Project Pat was locked up is when 3 6 Mafia was starting to blow up, because you gotta think that Project Pat said that he got sentenced to 9 years but only served 3 years. 3 6 Mafia had been dropping tapes and stuff like that, but they dropped their debut album Mystic Styles in May of 1995. The rest is history from there regarding 3 6 Mafia. Pat saw how 3 6 Mafia was doing and he wanted in on it. He knew while he was locked up that he wanted to do music, and when he got out, in his words, he got blessed in. When it came to developing Project Pat's style, he said that Juicy J was the one who helped form it. Juicy was the one who told me, "You don't want to sound like nobody else. Every time you come on a record, you want everybody to know it's you, so you gotta come with a whole different style all the time." If it wasn't for him, I would have probably never went that way. I was going to say that what made me want to do it was when he dropped those CDs in one day and he had made over $24,000. When I saw all that money, I said, wait a minute, there's some money in this. That's what got me into it. It started with Project Pat just playing with styles and melodies, and he just came up with his signature style and it stuck. Pat was also asked what he envisioned his audience would be when he first started. When I got out on Robbery, that's when they were just signing with Relativity, so I was just trying to capture where they were at. If you pay attention to Getty Green, that's what I was on. A lot of songs on there was street songs and they were real. That's what I was on at the time. Mistah Don't Play, I spoke in more details because stuff had been over with and I was coming out of that street life and leaving it alone. On Getty Green, I really held back. And as far as the style and who I was targeting, at the time, urban rap was like one song and you could get an album and sell 1 million records. But I never thought about selling 1 million records. I would just go in there and do it. Whatever Paul was paying me at the time, I was content with it, so it didn't matter to me. I wanted to be good, but I never strived for excellence like that. At the time, the South was so low. I still had the same mentality of, maybe we'll go gold and sell 300,000 copies. That was at the time that Biggie and them had just died, and Jay-Z was taking over and New York was really popping then. So I was just like, whatever I can get out of it is cool, at least I'm getting something. With this quote, we're getting a little bit too far ahead of ourselves though, but Project Pat would first appear on the song Where the Killers Hang on 3 6 Mafia's second album, Chapter 1, The End, which released in December of 1996. He would then appear on the songs Prophet Posse, We Got Them Nines, Body Parts 2, and Land of the Lost on 3 6 Mafia's album, Chapter 2, World Domination, which released in November of 1997. In 1998, he would appear twice on Indo G's and Gangsta Boo's solo debut album, but 1999 will be a big year for Project Pat. He would first appear on a couple of the songs on the Crazy in the Last Days album by the Tear the Club Up Thugs, and in September of that year, he would drop his debut album, Getty Green, which peaked at number 52 on the Billboard 200. The album spawned 2 singles, which were Represented and Ballers. The song Ballers also spawned the remix with Juvenile, Birdman, The Hot Boys, Juicy J, and DJ Paul. I've seen people say that this is Project Pat's best work, or definite top 3 in his discography, but this album does contain fan favorites like Out There, Run a Train, North Memphis, Ricky Dink, 1 and 2, I guess, etc. Speaking of Out There though, Drake would use lyrics derived from this song on Block Boy JB's song Look Alive. Drake had deep ties to Memphis for those who don't know, and he appeared on this track with the Memphis artist as well. So this was probably a nod and an ode to Pat, but this isn't the last time we'll talk about Drake in this video. Y'all want to know something else about Getty Green? The Source actually gave it a 2.5 mic score when it came out, and I didn't even know that until I was scrolling through pics of Project Pat on Google for this video, and I saw that, and I was like, yo, that is wild. Crazy, man. Wild score. But like I said though, 1999 will be a good year for Pat, but in the year 2000, that's when things will be taken to a whole other level, when he provided a hook for the classic 3 6 Mafia and UGK song, Sippin' on Some Scissor. Project Pat's vocals for the hook was sampled from the song Ballers on Getty Green. The song was huge and really took everyone on the song to a new level. That beat is just so hypnotic, and the song is like when everyone does their work on a class assignment and you get a good grade. Like everyone truly understood the assignment. Also in 2000, Project Pat would drop the compilation album Murders and Robbers. It's labeled as an underground album, and it's mainly a compilation of Pat's mixtape material from the 90s before he went to prison. In February of 2001, Project Pat would drop his second album, Mistah Don't Play, Everything's Working, which peaked at number 4 on the Billboard 200. This album spawned 2 singles, which were Chicken Head and Life We Live. Chicken Head would end up peaking at number 87 on the Billboard Hot 100, and this song was huge as well. The inspiration for the hook on the song came about when Pat was walking behind a girl up the stairs and kept on saying, "Balk, balk," because she reminded him of a chicken. He was just playing around with her, but then, he kind of like thought about it, and he thought about like what he just did, and he just realized that what he did could be good for a song. It was actually the last song recorded for Mistah Don't Play, because the whole album was wrapped up, but he came up with the song before the album was officially done, and it ended up being the lead single for the album. As many already know, this song was famously sampled in Cardi B's song Bacon Head, which appeared on her 2018 album Invasion of Privacy. J. Cole would also use lyrics from the song Don't Save Her for his song No Role Models off of his 2014 album 2014 Forest Hills Drive. We can also see the resurgence of the beat from the song If You Ain't From My Hood on Duke Deuce's viral 2019 song Crunk Ain't Dead. Megan Thee Stallion and Moneybagg Yo sampled the song Ooh Nothing for their song All That as well. Those are just some of the few of the notable people who have sampled or used stuff from this album alone. And those songs, all those songs I talked about, they were pretty big. But Mistah Don't Play also holds other fan favorite songs like Cheese and Dope, Gorilla Pimp, Life We Live, along with others. A little backstory behind the cover for the album is that DJ Paul is responsible for a lot of the 3 6 Mafia and 3 6 Mafia affiliate covers for the project. The cover for Getty Green was DJ Paul's idea, and something that I never knew, and I don't know whether I'm gonna get hate or other stuff, and people might be like, yo, I never noticed that too. But if you look closely at the Mistah Don't Play cover, you will see that there was somebody in the trunk. That is something that I never knew, and I never really looked closely at the cover art like that. But but all that was DJ Paul's idea. But according to Project Pat, that whole cover is showing what was going on in Memphis at the time. Drug dealers was getting kidnapped and trunked, as Project Pat would say. But also in 2001, Project Pat would make his film debut in Choices the Movie, which was done by 3 6 Mafia. He also appeared on the soundtrack for the album, and Project Pat actually does a really good job of acting in this film. He definitely should act more, in my opinion. But things looked like they were on the up and up for Pat, but unfortunately in 2002, Project Pat would be sentenced to 4 years in jail for 2 felony weapons charges dating back to an arrest that he had in January of 2001. Pat was originally pulled over by Tennessee police for excessive speeding while driving, and once the police pulled him over, they discovered 2 non-registered guns under his seat. Initially, his first trial was tried in Memphis, Tennessee on these charges, but the jury was unable to reach a verdict, so the prosecutors decided to move the second trial to Jackson, Tennessee, where the jury was able to reach a guilty verdict. So there you go. Pat was at arguably the height of his career, and now he would have to lose out on 4 years of his life. However though, in 2002, while Project Pat was behind bars, his third album, Laying the Smackdown, was released in August of 2002 after some delays. Promotion for the album was also very limited due to Pat being incarcerated. Despite this, the album did peak at number 12 on the Billboard 200 with over 70,000 copies sold in its first week of release. There is a song on this album though that's actually really important, and it involves UGK once again. So on this album, there's a song called Choose You, which samples Willie Hutch's song I Choose You. Now this song would inspire Pimp C of UGK while Pimp C was in prison, and this is what Juicy J had to say. The beat was on Project Pat's Land to Smackdown album, you know, when Project Pat was in jail. And the album did like 300,000 copies, or it could be gold now. His first album went platinum, but he kept going back and forth to jail, so the second one went like gold. Pimp C loved a song called Choose You. When Pimp C got out of jail, he was like, I want that same record that was on Project Pat's album. He had put that record out as a single at first, but Sony didn't push it because Pat was in jail, so it didn't do anything. Pimp said he wanted that same beat and didn't want to change nothing. Here's what Bun B of UGK had to say about this situation in an interview. First of all, let me say this. I don't think a lot of people know that Project Pat was probably one of Pimp C's top 3 rappers, period. So anything Project Pat related, he was always the first to buy it, support it, and crank it. When he came home, that's all he was screaming, that Pat had this song on his album called Choose You, and the beat was attractive, but Sony didn't really promote it. When he came home, he was like, man, I love this song, and Sony didn't promote the MFer like they should have. That's all he kept saying, that it was a hit record. I was like, there's nothing you can do about that. But he was like, I want to rap on an MFer. I said, you gotta be kidding. You can't rap to this dude's song. His album just came out. It hasn't been out that long. It was one of the albums that he got when he was locked up and listening to. He said, trust me, I'm gonna call DJ Paul tomorrow. So we called Paul and reached out to explain that he wanted to do the song. He was like, man, we got a big budget and I'm going to make sure we break some bread and do the song. They were all for it. Project Pat wasn't tripping. Project Pat is a real one for that indeed, and the history behind what led to the song International Players Anthem is like a 10-minute video in itself. Like, man, the story behind that song is just crazy, man. It's really just crazy. So I don't want to go really too deep in that, especially since, like, I've talked about that song at least 3 or 4 different times, like, on this channel. But while we're talking about Pimp C, according to Project Pat, he said that Pimp C wanted to do an album with him before he passed. But unfortunately, like, you know, Pimp C would pass, so we would never get the album. In 2003, the mixtape The Appeal, Project Pat dropped. But in 2005, Pat got out of prison, but he was to remain on supervised release for another 3 years, beginning with a stint at a halfway house where he was allowed to leave only for work. At the time, he said that he wasn't rushing to release music because he just got out, but he did have something coming soon. Pat constantly wrote while he was in prison, and this is what he had to say in an interview. When I first got out, I had to admit, I was a little bitter. I felt like even though I did wrong, I didn't feel like I deserved all the time. But I'm not the judge, nor am I the jury. So I just had to accept it, and I've accepted it, and I moved on with my life, and that's in the past now. But as far as the rhymes and all that, I mean, we gotta keep something that the people are gonna respond to. My style is telling tales and all that, and my rhymes have always had somewhat of a message to them. But I think now, being locked away, I have a deeper message now. Project Pat did appear on 3 6 Mafia's album, Most Known Unknown, on the tracks Roll With It, Not the Black Off, and on the reissue of the album, he appeared on Poppin' My Collar, which was a huge song when it came out and is one of 3 6 Mafia's most popular songs. The song peaked at number 21 on the Billboard Hot 100. Project Pat would also appear on the other popular track on the album, Stay Fly, on the Still Fly remix. The first project he would drop after prison was Gangsta Grill's Volume 15, The Welcome Home Party, which released in February of 2006. The next month after this is when 3 6 Mafia would win an Oscar for the Best Original Song for their song It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp. Project Pat described the moment as winning the lottery. It was a big moment in hip-hop, but definitely a big moment for the South and Memphis in general. Later on in the year, he would drop the album Crook by the Book, The Fed Story in December. The album would peak at number 64 on the Billboard 200, selling about 40,000 copies in its first week. The most popular songs from this project are probably Raised in the Projects and Good Googly Moogly. Yeah, I love that. But the funny thing about Good Googly Moogly is that Project Pat didn't want it as a single, but the label really wanted to push it as one, and that's what happened. But from this point on, I mean, Project Pat was still doing his thing. He was dropping mixtapes and albums and still doing features. A big feature he did in 2008 was when he appeared on 3 6 Mafia's song Lolly Lolly Pop That Body, and the song went on to reach number 18 on the Billboard Hot 100. One thing I will say is that I hate doing videos on people who have a lot of albums and mixtapes and stuff like that, because if I don't mention one, like, people are like, yo, you forgot this, blah blah blah. But like, man, this man has over like 30 projects in total, you know what I mean? So it's just crazy. But Pat's last album with Hypnotized Minds came in July of 2001 when he released Loud Pack. From the span of Play Me Some Pippin 2, which released in October of 2009, and Belly on Full, which released in February of 2012, those albums were self-released. But in January of 2013, he would start the release of his Cheese and Dope mixtape series, and in a Vlad TV interview, Pat would say that he wasn't signed to Taylor Gang, but he was affiliated with them just like how he was with 3 6 Mafia, because in both he was affiliated via his brother Juicy J. But as far as music, I mean, Pat was still dropping, and even dropped Mistah Don't Play Everything's Money in March of 2015. We can skip to modern day, and Project Pat is really starting to get his flowers in the game. Pat would appear on the song Lane Switcher on the Fast and Furious 9 soundtrack alongside Skepta, Pop Smoke, UCJ, and A$AP Rocky. I also mentioned earlier about the relationship Drake has with Project Pat, and this year, Pat appeared on the song Knife Talk on Drake's album Certified Lover Boy. That song would peak at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100, being Project Pat's highest charting song in his career. And this man is 48, almost 50. He calls this a Drake blessing, and Drake has always shown love to Memphis. This song actually samples Project Pat's verse from Juicy J's 2017 song Beat the Streets. What's crazy is that originally the song was 21 Savage's. He was originally going to put it on his album Savage Mode 2, but someone told him to hold on to it. 21 would say that he sent the song to Drake 2 days before Certified Lover Boy was supposed to release, and Drake did his verse a day prior to the album being released. Also, before I leave, Project Pat appeared on the Prophet Posse album Body Parts in 1998 and the Hypnotized Camp Posse self-titled album in 2000. All in all, tell me what you guys think of this video. Man, Project Pat, man, like one of the true greats. Man, but yeah, definitely let me know in the comments, man. Yo, follow my Instagram. I already said all that stuff. I don't have too much to say. Project Pat. Shout out to Memphis. We out.